Hey there, JP.
Hey, Katie, how are you?
I'm real good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We just had like a tornado here, but it's going through nicely, so I'm good to go. So,
Oh, yeah, it's a little cloudy and rainy here,
what you
but
need? What you need? Doesn't Fresno need the rain?
yeah, we
Yeah,
so need the
yeah,
rain.
yeah.
Miranda, would you also grab my coffee off that table? Chris brought out a cup of coffee, so I need it. So, and
Oh,
Miranda's wearing, I want to show you guys, she's wearing some earrings that I'm going to show you folks. Look at her. There she is.
okay.
And can you zoom in?
Yeah. Can you zoom
Those,
in?
yeah, I don't know if I can, but
Okay.
there we are.
Aren't
Those
those
are going to be up
pretty?
on, we're going to do some fun things on Friday with
Yeah.
those fun things. We're going to kind of do a continuation of this. So,
Surprise.
surprise. So thank you, my friend. Now she's going to go back. I don't know if you folks saw on the bead table. Janice, have you looked on the bead table what I posted this morning?
No, what did you post? I'm sorry. I
There
was
is a
really
picture,
busy.
and there is a fantastic um uh photo of Alfred doing his what I want to say, supervising. Yes, he's supervising Miranda, and he's up and looking. So it's very, very funny. They
Okay.
were both they were both out this morning, up and early, and and Alfred is supervising. So I see in the comments that people are commenting and they've seen it and they're saying, hello, Miranda, and how gorgeous you are, and cool earrings and hair. We love the earrings. Curtis, I'm glad that you're back safe and sound. And Karen did see that picture of Miranda and Alfred. So that's awesome. So there's a comment here. The supplies have been restocked. So as Akana, I'm not sure why you didn't get your email, but I will go online. I'll go over to our website today while we're working, and I'll show everybody where to look for the rest of the stuff for the master class, because this is master class part 2, JP.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to jump into it. Though, you know what I also need, Miranda? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I need a lens wipe because these glasses, I don't know about you, Janice, but
I do. I wipe glasses on everything. I have 3 pairs of glasses.
so I cannot see. So today we're going over pearl knotting with thread. We are going to concentrate on spooled silk. We also have launched, and let me add this to the mix here. Let me put Janice back up here. We launched some large hole pearls on Tuesday morning, and you folks loved them. It was in the newsletter, and in the newsletter, I should have brought the project, but I'll go over it more on Friday as well, because I didn't want to take away from what we were doing today. But I did a really fun little simple pearl wrap. I'll show you folks on Friday. I'll show you that. And it's in the newsletter. The recipe is in the newsletter for you. The large hole pearls are up. We sold out of 2 styles. There's still 2 styles left. But we'll talk a little bit more about those. And I've got some great brios, some things for you on Friday. So we've got a busy week. I was off for a couple of days, so I appreciate everybody's. I'm also going to clean my camera. I appreciate everybody's patience, but I think we were all up to date on emails. Orders are going out. My mom says hello. She was here yesterday helping with orders. So it's a whole family affair, right? Small business is the backbone, and we're doing our best, right, JP?
Yes, and I just want to do a shout out to your mom, Gwen. Everybody loved the journals. There are people signed up for more. They want to know when they come back in. They're absolutely exquisite. They're masterpieces. And we're just lucky to have your energy and your wisdom and your creativity at Beadshop. So I just want to let you know, I feel very grateful.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And the journals they sold in 3 minutes.
That's just crazy.
So we really appreciate you. So I've got more pearls to launch. Don't worry if you missed some of the large hole pearls. I promise you, I've been talking to some of our pearl vendors and some of our Tucson vendors, and it's been kind of interesting to hear the feedback about Tucson. And, things, as we all know, the face of retail and everything, things are changing, a bit. And I launched the pearls. I thought I launched the pearls at noon, but maybe I launched them at midnight. I don't remember. Yeah. But anyway, the face of retail, online, physical stores, all of that, it is changing a bit. We've seen, Janice, you and I were on the front lines of internet sales that Christmas in 1970 or 1996, right? Where Macy's couldn't fill things fast enough and everything. I feel like it's kind of another shift. So we are doing our best to source interesting products, to continue with those interesting projects. A lot of our vendors, and it's been happening this way since COVID, that supply chain still not back to the levels it was in 2017, 2018, even 2019. Variety is not there. Where pearls, when I used to go to Tucson, even 10 years ago, there were just booths dripping with pearls. And it's just they're not as available as they used to be. I think that the cost to produce them, the money to import them. So we're going to continue to work with our trusted partners to get you the best of the best. So thanks for sticking with us. And you'll see some more pearls. That long-winded thing to say is, I promise you, more pearls will be coming. So thank you for that.
Well, I don't know, Kate, if you remember when we had the shop in Palo Alto and we used to teach classes that use pearls, and I would tell students, and this was back in like 2005, and I said, buy pearls.
Mm-hmm.
Buy as many pearls as you can with whatever you have, because that was when China first started making the large freshwater pearls.
Mm-hmm.
They had perfected like the 10 millimeter.
Well, and that's what that's
been available before.
Yeah, this strand, Janice, I should put this on. This one that I showed that you gave me, that was from that timeline. Yeah. Julie's commenting, hi, my friend Julie. I love seeing all of your beautiful work that you've been doing since you've gotten back from Tucson. Your pieces are so great. She is commenting that pearls were way higher in Tucson this year. Yeah. And that really is true. We're really lucky that we've been working with this same pearl vendor for many, many, many years. So, a tip to those of you who do purchase, certainly from us, but also maybe you have a business and, you also do some wholesale purchasing, being really vendor loyal is what Janice and I have found over the years. It's been a vital relationship. And through the fat times and the lean times, your vendors come through in the clutch for you.
They do.
We're very, very, very fortunate. But let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. Let me get the agenda back up here. I don't think I
love your agendas.
I know, we've got the agenda. So let me get this up. And again, thanks everybody. A couple of people have inquired. I had a nice quick little break. It was my dear friend Susan's 60th birthday, which it's incredible. She's a high school friend. My mom knows her. Her parents are like my parents. It's really, really fun to surround yourself with those friends that you've had for so long. And we had a great creative few days. We quilted, we sewed. She implanted a lot of interesting ideas in my brain about, I did a little research and development because Susan loves kits and things. So I'm all, oh, great ideas, Sue. So
That's great.
it was a lot of fun. So here we go. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on spooled silk, which is a favorite of both Janice and I. We're going to do a step-by-step demo of knotting with the spool silk. We're going to use some end tips. We're going to talk about bullion, and we're going to talk about these specialty caps. The specialty caps that I've got for you just launched today, and I'm going to go over them actually a little more in depth on Friday's Free Tip Friday episode. We're also going to talk about knotting between different bead shapes and sizes, and we're going to talk about adapting techniques for larger or irregularly shaped beads. And on the converse, we're going to talk about how to handle tiny hole pearls and gemstones. So, Janice, I've got this stuff up here. Why don't we talk first about the spooled silk? Let me highlight this one, and I'll try and keep an eye on comments and stuff as well. So this spooled silk, we have it in several different sizes. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Oh, I thought I was just going to be able to sit around while you did all the heavy
Okay,
lifting.
perfect. Why don't you? And then we'll have Miranda do it. We'll both go to the mall. How does that sound?
Well, actually, I'm happy to talk about it. Do you want me to put my camera on?
No. I just have it right here, and I'm grabbing the other. I'm just getting my tweezers and stuff, and I'm going to get started. But maybe talk a little bit. I'm using the size F. We also have the different sizes, the size E, and the D threads.
So Kate Kate likes the F, and I like the E.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the E primarily because I find it's more flexible. The E is thinner than the F. Silk on the spools comes in various sizes. It starts with, and we don't even carry it, like a 000. Then a little bigger is a 00. Then there's a 0. I don't know if anyone is watching that show on Netflix Prime Target where they talk about the number before the 0. Excuse me. I have no idea why they couldn't just start with A, B, D, C, E, F, but they started with 000, 000. Then they went to A, then they went to B, then they went to C, D, E, F, then they went to double F.
Yeah, double F, and even triple F back in the day.
I don't know why they, I'm not going to say that it was some gentleman in a factory who did that, but like when I'm at a stadium and I need a restroom, I always go, oh, there it was. It was designed by a man. But anyway, we stay really within the D, E, and the F. Sometimes with like really, really, really tiny, tiny pearls, you could use like an A or a B. But when I need something for tiny gemstones or tiny, tiny pearls, honestly, I just use KO.
Right. And we talked about the KO last time. I have those samples that I'll show you, but you really converted me to using that KO for knotting, Janice.
Yeah,
if you folks didn't watch part 1, and I've got those here, I'll show you that. But if you didn't watch part 1 of the master class, that was talking about those threads was really awesome. Let me now that I have these in front of me here, Janice, I'm just going to demo a couple of ways of knotting, and
Sure.
then we'll talk about the closures. Okay. And
Okay.
I put a couple of people have asked about the necklace that you're wearing, your charm necklace. I
Sure.
put this charm necklace down here. Um, that's a really fun project that Janice and I did together a while back. And you can see I've knotted here. I've used the end tips here. I've used a little bit of chain and a lobster claw here. It was really a fun one to do. These are just pieces out of my personal collection that I put on it. And Janice is also wearing hers. I'll do a close up of hers later. And so we'll talk about some more of these things. The pearls that I'm going to be using today are two of the pearls that I just launched this morning.
They're
And
so pretty.
yeah, the luster, I'm going to get a piece of printer paper because I want our background to be super white. And that's one of the things, Janice, that you taught me when we were buying pearls, when we used to buy pearls at the shop in person. We would have our pearl vendor show up and we would put the pearls on a piece of white paper like this, remember, especially the white and the cream. So you can see if I were just looking at these cream ones, these are the new ones, and these are, I think, 6 to 7 millimeter, and these are like 6 to 6.5 millimeter. These, we only have a few of them. The luster is gorgeous and they're almost perfectly round. So if you are looking for an old school pearl that looks very expensive, I mean, these are not inexpensive, but you know what? We brought them to you at the best price we possibly could, but they look like, you know, a strand that cost you hundreds of dollars. I love them, love them. These are also ones that I got from one of our trusted vendors in Tucson, and they're a Baroque. Now, I know, Janice, you love a round or a potato a little more than a Baroque.
Mm-hmm.
I am so into the natural look of these Baroque pearls. Maybe I just feel like they look so vintage, you know, or like that Renaissance jewelry, very Queen Elizabeth I kind of a look. But look at the luster. It's, I don't know if you can even see this on the screen, but they have kind of a real beautiful glow and luster about them. Even like with these pearls, this is out of my personal pearl pearl bin. Look at how this is, right? Look at how beautiful that is right there.
It is. You know, everyone has their own taste, whether they like a bigger knot, a smaller knot, they like a pearl with texture, or they like it smooth or round.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that it has curb appeal, that when you look at
Right.
it, it speaks to you. It's sort of hard to get that across the screen, and that's why our audience, our viewers trust us, trust you to send out product that you would use. You wouldn't send something that you know, like, oh, it's got 2 or 3 bad beads. That's one of the reasons we're having trouble getting the pearl button back in, because the nacre, the coating on single hole button pearls are, you know, it's kind of iffy now. They're not making them like they used to. And
Yeah, they're not as great. Yeah. And
so
even, and I noted it, I didn't mean to interrupt, JP, but even on some of the large hole pearls that I just put up, I noted it. And that's why I think they were such a great price. They're full of character for sure, but they're not pristine like these, right? But they still have, like you say, a lot of curb appeal. right? A lot of curb appeal. So, and as Usaina, I'm sorry you're not pleased with our response. Oh my goodness. So please, always jump in, send us that email. I'll make sure that you have all the links. Sometimes when we're both the talent and answering questions on this live show, I'm the talent, the camera person, and the customer service person on there. So I promise you, we'll get you all squared away, okay? But I appreciate your feedback. So what I'm doing here, JP, is I'm going to work with both of these here. And I also wanted to show you these caps. We just got these caps in, and they're a bead cap that looks like this. It has a loop on the inside, a loop on the outside. And I'm going to delve into this a little bit further on Friday as well. We're going to do some fun things with this. But this, what I'm seeing with some of the there's several jewelry designers that focus solely on pearls, right? They do a lot of pearls. They do a lot of like reimagining of vintage designs and stuff. And I saw these caps on one of their designs. It was a similar cap, not the same one. And I thought it added such an interesting flair, contemporary flair to the way that the pearl strand looked. So we're going to delve into these. These just launched this morning. So I promise you we will add those. Okay, so I think everybody's jonesing for that demo. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me zoom in.
I am jonesing for it because, I've been in this business longer than most people have been alive, and I have never successfully used that loop on the inside of a cap.
Oh, well, I'll show you that, JP. What I'm going to start, though, with Janice is I'm going to start with our tried and true end tip.
Okay, that's a good place to start. Yeah.
Because you and I both like an end tip. Do you prefer starting with the clamshell, Janice, or do you prefer a regular cap, regular classic?
I will always use the classic. For years and years, we'd get repairs. I mean, 40 years I'd get pearls to reknot at the bead shop. And it never failed in the 40 plus years that I reknotted things at the bead shop. The little classic end tip never came off the clasp, never broke. It was amazing. And I have learned that they have not improved on something that is just so amazing, is that little workhorse tip. As long as you get the umbrella handle inside of the cup, it's just fantastic. I will take it over a clamshell 10 times out of 10.
No, I agree. I like them both. I'll be honest. So here, let me show you. Let's look at this one.
Yeah.
This one right here, this is a personal piece of mine. You can see I've used the clamshell, though this is kind of coming. I don't know why that's kind of open, so I'm going to fix it. But this little clamshell, you can see it is the most, I think, visually unobtrusive. Does that make sense? So the thing that Janice is saying, why this end tip, let me do this here. Hang on. Why this end tip doesn't fail. Can you see inside of it? See how that loop is not smushed, right? And smushed is a technical term. See how the loop or the hook on that end tip is rounded. One of the things that I see when we repaired so many pearls, not only at Beadshop, also at Beadissimo in San Francisco, at my store, we did so many repairs. And one of the main things was the issue is that you see it that it's smashed, right? And there's no movement there. So your number one tip is when you close this end tip around a clasp, you make sure that this loop is large enough so that there's free movement here. If the loop on your clasp is too small, go ahead and add a jump ring in between, right? So if you have this as a movement, like a little joint, like a little elbow joint or a little knee joint, right? This is the main reason. So don't smash that loop closed, curve it closed, okay? This one is the clamshell, okay? The clamshell I use, and I've got it here, sometimes visually, when the piece has a lot going on back here, right? I have like a little daisy spacer, a little seed bead, then my clamshell. So visually, this works nicely because there's a lot of hardware on the back end, right? There's also a lot of hardware on the front because, this is that charm necklace. So maybe if it's a little bit heavier or if it visually has a little more weight, right? The clamshell, I think, works out nicely. Also, if I'm doing multiple strands like float necklaces and things, which is for another day, I'll use this clamshell. Now, I also have this guy, and we don't use this one as much. And I'll be honest, I kind of forgot we carried this one. We found this one because we were having trouble for a while getting these other types of clamshell end tips. So this one, let me show you if I can hold it here. This is one, let me zoom in. And you like this one too, Janice. I like it too. It's when you close this clamshell, you can see it's open there in the bottom. It has a pretty big hole down there. When you close it up like this, instead of a hook, you have a loop like this, right? And you just connect that loop closed with a jump ring. So we also carry these guys as well, okay?
It's also good if you want to use clamshells with regular Ceylon, where you're using a heavier thread, but you don't want the knot showing. So that also works.
Yes, that is very true. With the heavier Ceylon, that clamshell, I think, really looks, what do I want to say? Looks more in line with the heaviness of the thread, too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to use kind of this cool hot pink kind of thread so you can really see in between the knots. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knot a short strand. Let me get back just a little bit. Okay. So essentially, when you are knotting your pearls and when you're measuring your threads, this is just a simple, straightforward one. And again, if you missed part 1 of our masterclass, go back and watch part 1, because in part 1, we talk about how to test your pearls. And I see that there's a couple of questions about which size thread and stuff that you use. If you haven't watched part 1, it's really going to go into sizing your threads much more comprehensively than we can do kind of right now, because we're going to focus on the actual knotting. Okay, so, and I'll link that. I'll put that. I know I've got some things that I promised to link and stuff in newsletters. So tomorrow will be a really chatty recap. Ooh, you okay?
Yeah, just flip forward.
Okay. Will be a really chatty recap of this broadcast. Okay. So let me come in. I'm going to cut away this thread. This is kind of damaged here. So typically when we measure our threads, we go 3 times the length of the strand. So these were about 15 to 16 inches. So I would do that 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then I double it over. Okay. So because you want enough thread to be able to, if your thread breaks or if you have some issues with it, you have plenty of thread to kind of backpedal, right? And do that. So I've got my thread. I've cut it here. We're going to do it doubled. Now, the needle I'm going to use, you could use a medium. I'm going to use a fine because that's what I had open and ready to go. So that's what I've got there. Okay. So which end tip, JP? Should I just use our classic?
Use whichever one you want. I mean, I would use the classic, but
Okay. I'm going to start with that, right?
okay.
So let's go ahead. I'm going to string my thread. And I know from testing these, I know from my experience that this size F doubled over will fit through both of these. It's going to give me a fairly large knot, but that's what I'm looking for, especially with color. Okay. So I'm going to double this over my needle. Now, this part is really very important, and we talked about this during the last masterclass as well, that end tips always have, see the size of that hole right there, how big that is, versus the size of this hole. I don't know, it's hard to see that one because I can't get light through it. Hang on.
Yeah, we could see it. We could see
yeah.
it.
You can kind of see it there. But the knot, when we're knotting this, we really want to make sure that we're tying a knot that's large enough so that it does not pull through the hole of the end tip. Okay. The thread, the silk thread, since it's a natural thread, it has a tendency to come back down kind of tight when you tighten that, and it'll unfurl a little bit as it's over the lifespan of the knot. So when I tie this knot, I'm going to go through twice. I'm actually going to go through a third time. I'm going to, at this point, as I'm tightening that knot up, I want to glue that knot fairly quickly, right? Because if this knot sits, the thread is going to relax. So, and the knot is going to kind of loosen a little bit. So I'm going to compact this down nice and tight. I can see visually that that knot is good. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to glue it. Okay. And I use my GS Hypo to really soak that knot in. And I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to put my end tip on, but I'm not going to worry about cutting this thread off or anything like that. I can still work with this. Okay. So what we're going to do here is, let me grab a pen and show you the way that this end tip is made. Is here's the cup of the end tip, right? And here's the hole. Okay. So when you put an end tip on at the beginning, your threads are here, your knot is here, and your strands go down, and there's your needle. Okay? So that the hook is pointing away from your beads, right? When you put the end tip on the other side, you need to remember that your end tip is facing away from your strand. Okay. And then your needle comes through here and then you knot it off, right? So the end tips are in the opposite direction. And Janice, thank you. I'm also going to show people where to, to find the pearl knotting handout. Okay. So it's one of our classic classes. I'll do all that at the end. We'll do a little website tour and I'll talk to you about all of that. So with thread equals end tips, right? End tips or bullion wire or caps like this. So we're going to use these end tips today. Okay.
Kate, I just want to, can you put your little drawing back
Sure.
for just a second? Because in teaching pearl knotting, one of the things people got confused about was what is the direction the end tip should be. And I just want to point out that the end tip, the hook of whatever end tip you use, whether it's a clamshell or it's a traditional, the hook, the intention of the hook is to hook to your clasp.
Right.
So you put your end tip on and then the hook is touching the pearl. It's on through the cup of the end tip the wrong way. The little cup is where the knot lives inside, and the cup protects it from the wear and tear of the back and forth of the clasp.
Exactly.
So I just want to remind people that that's the whole point of the end tip.
Right.
Protects your thread.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, exactly. Proceed.
Thank you. Thanks, Janice, for that reiteration. Appreciate. So let's go ahead. I've tied my knot. I already have my needle on my thread. Don't tie this knot without first putting your thread through your needle, right? And now, just like Janice said, the hook is meant to go down towards the clasp. So on this strand, I'm going to go up through the cup. Okay, so like your end tip is like a little umbrella. The umbrella is up here, the handle of the umbrella is down here, and I'm going up through underneath the umbrella. Okay, so we're going to pull this down, and we're also going to tighten this up. I come in and I pull this, right? And sometimes I can even split the threads and make sure that everything is tight. I'm going to make sure that my knot doesn't slip through my end tip. And now we're going to add our first pearl. Now the question here, Nikki has a question that says, is it better to have a pearl touch the end cap or to have a knot in between? I always come in and I put the pearl on next. Because if you have a knot between your first bead and the end tip, it's like a skinny little neck, right? And things are going to, there's going to be a gap there, and that end tip can move back and forth, and the end cap or the end tip can just shear the thread right away. Now, notice how I just put my thread on, my pearl on. See how I have kind of this bump of thread right here? You really want to make sure with that first pearl to pull down each strand, this strand right here, and make sure that you don't capture the end tip inside. Okay, so we can put this on. We can put this on and tighten it down. Now, Mel just asked, I'm not adding a decorative bead here just because this is a demo, but I do that a lot. Can you see here how I have a little tiny daisy spacer there? On this one, I have just a little tiny seed bead there. So it just depends on what you like, right? It's like Janice said, it's just a personal thing. It's not critical. Whoops, sorry. There it is. And you can see here on this one, these are my Tahitian pearls that I knotted. I do have an end cap on that one there. All right, so we put our first bead on. Now, let's do this. I'm going to get rid of this white paper because I need a kind of a cushy surface. So I'm using my bead board here. Okay. So I'll come in. We're going to do this with the knotting tweezers. I'm going to do a couple of ways for you here. Okay. We're going to do the knotting tweezer. We're going to do the awl, and then I'm going to give you my fail safe. We're going to talk a little bit about doing it by hand, and then I'm going to talk to you about the I call it kind of the last resort technique, where if people are always stymied by all of this stuff, I have kind of another fail-safe one for you to use. So here's the pearl. And Janice, feel free to jump in technique-wise anytime. But
can you take my comment down now, though?
Oh, sorry. Thanks.
See, yep. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so here's my first pearl. Let's go ahead and let's tie the knot. Okay, so the knot that we tie is essentially an overhand knot, right? It's a knot that you just come in and you pull the threads through, so you have the loop and the knot is there, right? The trick to successful bead knotting, pearls, semi-precious, glass, whatever it is, you need to get that knot to sit up next to the hole of the bead, right? So that's when tools sometimes come in handy, okay? So something like this, the way that I did this, and I'll take it out, I'll do it one more time a little bit more slowly. I come in and I'm going to just make that loop, and automatically what my hand does is my thumbnail gets on top of this thread as I bring it around my hand. Whoops, I'm caught in my tweezers. So that this thread is laying nice and flat, one against the other. Okay, like that. And so it helps the knot be a nice kind of compact, flattish knot, rather than a knot where the threads are all twisted and it makes it bulky and sometimes a little uneven. So I'm just going to come in, I'm going to dip this thread underneath there, pull it, and my knot is formed. Okay. Let me undo that and do that one more time, because if you get something like this, don't freak out. Just unknot it. I can probably fix this, but just unknot before you tighten. And let's do this one again. The thing about not getting knots, unwanted knots in your thread, is do not panic. Just don't go, oh my gosh, and pull on it. Just kind of let it, kind of come back and then pull it out. Now, Janice just posted, we were talking about supply chain a little bit earlier. Pearl knotting tweezers are on back order until May. So that's what we heard from our manufacturer. So please put yourself on the notification list. It's on the product page. It'll say sold out, and it'll say, do you want to be notified when this product comes back in stock? Okay. And then when we put new product in, that email will automatically get triggered and you'll know when to purchase. Okay. If you don't see that email, it may be because it went into your spam folder. It may, once it leaves our server and goes to you, it's hard to say. So make sure it'll come from beadshop.com and it'll say back in stock. Okay. So, and I also sometimes try and also put it in the newsletter as well, so you know what's up. All right. So the way I have things arranged, I'm right-handed. So I'm holding these tweezers in my right hand. I'm going to put one leg of the tweezer on the inside of the knot, one on the outside like this, okay? And the tips are kind of pushing down into the soft pad of this beadboard, okay? Now, all I'm doing, I'm going to kind of close them up a little bit here, but they're not tight around the threads. They're kind of gently hugging the thread. Now, with this hand, with my left hand, I'm going to pull that knot tight, pull it tight, pull it tight. The tips of the tweezer are still in the board, okay? Pulling it tight, and then once I lift it up, as I pull this thread off of the tine of my tweezer, you can see, can you see here how the loop is big still? It's still not tight. That's when I come in and I push my knot away from me with the tweezers, and I pull this tweezer towards me, okay? And that gives me a nice tight knot. Can I show you that? So Nikki is asking, and I know you're answering it probably right now, Janice, will TSA take away these tweezers? They may, because they're super long and short. Super long and sharp is what I meant to say. But you're going to see some techniques today where you don't need to take these tweezers on board. Janice specifically calls it her plane, train, and car method, right? So let's do this again. Put on another one. The secret, and Janice, I don't know if you'll agree with me here, the secret to successful purl knotting is relax those hands. Try and be as relaxed as you can, and know that the first time you string this or do a little warm-up strand, because you're going to make some mistakes at the beginning, right? So we're going to do this again. Come around, come through, and we'll put this tweezer in like this, tighten, kind of do that little wiggle, tighten it all the way down, pull it out. Do not tighten this knot until you're pushing the knot away and pulling the thread towards you. Okay?
Now, Kate, what I do is I add separating the threads.
Yes, 100%. And if I didn't do that before, I should have.
And
right.
This is also where it stretches your silk.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Just that separation like this and a little tug like that. Okay.
Okay. And then sometime when you're doing this little practice thing, I want you, because there are going to be people, we know this, who pull on that thread and then one of them breaks.
Yeah.
Will you cut one of the threads as if you broke it and show everyone?
I will. I'll do that a little bit later.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and I think we have that specifically for a later, let me make sure.
Really?
I think we have got that earmarked. Let me look at the schedule, folks, for all of this. Yeah, that's on May 7th. So if you go to this page, the masterclass on purl knotting, friends, you will see we've got this whole thing mapped out. So we're really getting into that in the May class. Okay. So it's a marathon, my friends, not a sprint. Right. So let me show you another tool. Okay. Let me zoom in a little bit tighter, and it's there under master classes. And the schedule is there, and the link to all of the purl knotting classes are on that page as well. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to bring this around, and we're going to use an awl. Okay. Now, if some of you are saying, well, I want to bring, I want to bring this on the plane, but I do need a tool. I do want a tool to use. you could bring like a small T-pin. A lot of people use T-pins for this. Okay. And a little T-pin, I thought I might have had one here. I don't think I do. But it's like a sewing pin that's kind of heavy, and it looks like a T, right? And has a nice stem to the bottom. It's a nice sturdy pin. And all you do with this, you don't have the two tines, right? The tweezer on inside or outside. But essentially you just put the awl inside your knot like this. You keep that tip down into the pad. So if you're traveling, just give yourself, like, here's a little piece of that quilt that I had, we used a while back, right? I could use that when I'm traveling. Put your little piece of quilt in there, or a little piece of felt, or a little something, right? Like that. So here's this. I'm going to put this in. I'll tighten it up. Now, this is where all I do is I take the awl out. I'll split the threads and walk that knot down. Okay? Like that. That's it. Okay? And sometimes I want to give each little strand a pull. Okay? So that works out too. Let me do that one more time. Okay? Now, Janice, in your pearl knotting handout, which I will show everybody how to navigate to, and I know that you put it through, it's on our classic pearl knotting page as well.
Archive projects.
Yeah, it's in archive projects, and I put it on the pearl knotting page. So here we'll do this, push this down in, pull it in, take that all out. Don't pull on the thread yet. When you slide this all out, don't pull on the thread. Split the threads and tighten. And again, sometimes I give each little thread a pull. Okay, so that's that. And you can see this thread that I'm using, it's giving me kind of nice large knots, which I'm liking. Okay. So here I'm going to scoot back a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit about the tool-free method.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, this is, when Janice teaches this, she teaches it actually a little different, slightly different than I do it by hand. But the essential technique is the same.
Yeah, it's just learning to do it without a tool at all. Yeah.
So I'm going to put on, essentially what Janice does is, and we do this, we pre-string everything, right? So you have a long line of beads. Some, they're here on the end, and you bring them down and you knot them one by one. Now I'm going to do just a few that are kind of quick so you can see the overview, and then I'm going to break it down. Okay. So let's take a look at what we're aiming for. Gosh, these round pearls, Janice, these are so good. We have a limited supply of these, folks. So if you like these, jump on them. I love them. So I've got a knot here already. I'm going to slide this down like that, right? Now I'm going to come in. What I always do is this. See how I run? I get my thumb between the threads, I run it down, and it untwists this thread. Okay? So your thread has a tendency to get really twisty like this. So I always come in, and this is automatic for me. Untwist. And I see a couple of people are asking about the single thread method. That's next show. That's next. That's episode 3. So folks, you'll have to tune in to episode 3 for that one, because today we're going to focus on the double strand, but I promise you we'll get to the single strand as well. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to let all of these other threads out there right here. I'm going to come around and I'm going to, what I do with my left hand is I get my index finger and my thumb right on the top of this, split, bring it around, and I send everything under the bridge. See how I have a bridge between this finger and this finger? I send it through. And my knot here is sitting on the top of my pearl. Essentially, I get my hand out of there. I get my fingers on top. Remember, I'm going fast. I'm going to break this down. Okay? I'm going to drop my fingers out, and my thumb holds the knot into place while I tighten that knot up. Okay? So I'm going to go in. And people are mentioning that our buddy Cynthia from Green Girl, Cynthia also does a lot of pearl knotting. She's a great one to watch with knotting. We've talked pearl knotting together before as well. Love it. So bring another pearl down. I'm going to do another fast one, and then I'll break it down. Okay. Come in and tighten. Okay. So I'm a fast pearl knotter. So let's take that one down a little. Now, Janice, you do this a little bit differently. You put your pearls in front of your hands like this, right?
Correct.
And you bring it around.
Right. Correct.
Slide it underneath like that. Pull this down. Get your thumb. The essential thing is getting your thumb on top of that knot. So you're holding it in place, and then you pull that strand tight.
The important thing is that your two fingers that are holding the pearl don't actually go under the pearl, because then what you do is you create a knot that's further away, because if you want to show something like that.
Yeah, I'm doing that here, and I'm going to go through, and I'm going to bring this down. Now, Janice, what you're talking about is here. When you're pinching this, right? See how you don't want to come and pinch it up here, because see, the pearl is there, and see when I move my hands, see what's happened?
So also show it, Kate, when your fingers are under the pearl. So if you grab it and it's too far under the pearl, you're pushing that pearl away from the pearl before it.
Right, like that.
Yes, and you get a distance. So you want to clutch the pearl on its sides.
Right.
Just on the sides, and then you take the fat part of your thumb and put it right on top of the knot. And then you keep it pressed down. You let go with your two end fingers, and then you pull it in. Do not lift the thumb up.
Do not lift your thumb.
No, and don't pray. It's not going to help. Keep that thumb down, and it should work. You may have some loose pearls at first, but the beauty of it is you can cut it and redo it. But this is
let me zoom out a little bit more, and I'm going to go over this a little bit more. And yeah, you know, I've been stringing pearls. Janice taught me how to string pearls in 1992. So I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Right? So practice, my friends, makes perfect with this technique. Okay, so again, I'm going to come in. I'll do it my way, or you can do it this way, but you want to pinch at the top of the pearl. And what you do is pinch like this. That pushes that pearl down towards the knot. Okay, so I'm pinching. I wrap this thread around my hand. I create a gap between my index finger and my middle finger. Okay. Then what I do is I pass this needle or the thread under the bridge towards my fingertips, not under the bridge back towards my hand. Okay. So here's this. All right.
And what are you creating, Kate?
What's
Tell
that?
us, what have you just created by
Well,
doing
and that's the knot,
That's
right?
not. That's
Yeah.
all you've done is you've created that single overhand knot.
Exactly. So now what Janice is saying, what we say is we need to get our thumb now on top of this knot. So
Right.
I reverse my hand out and I bring these two fingers out, my index finger and my middle finger, and I pinch, like Janice says, you pinch on the sides of the pearl, not above, not below, but on the sides.
Sides, yes.
Then there's the fat part of my thumb. I come down on that knot. I drop my hands out. My thumb is here. Like this hand, this is free. All
That's
I'm doing
where
is
I say you could answer the phone.
right, exactly. Right? So here I'm just holding it. Now I just pull. My thumb is tight on this, but loose enough so my thread can slide. I split my threads and I tighten.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've got a whole bunch of questions that I'm going to pause for just a second and just say, Colleen's asking, what thread am I using? Colleen, we are using the thread that we carry here at Beadshop. It's the spooled silk. I'm using the size F right here. We also carry it in the size E, which makes a smaller knot. We talk about thread sizes and stuff in the first episode of the Masterclass series. So you can go to Beadshop, go to the Masterclass, the Pearl Masterclass page. You'll see where the link, where episode 1 is. You'll see what the episode 2 link is, and you'll see the agenda for the remaining. I think we've got 3 or 4 more episodes to go. Okay, 3, I think we have to go. Okay, and what we're going to cover in those.
We could just keep going.
What's that?
We could just keep going.
We could,
Make
right?
it the first Monday or Wednesday of every month.
Every month we just pearl knot. That's it. There was another question. Oh, Terry had a question about any substitutes in the place of pearls. You know, Terry, I'll be honest. I don't think that there are any substitutes, but I wouldn't worry about practicing with pearls, to be honest. Because pearls have a smaller hole usually than glass beads, right? So we talked about it in last month's class. We talked about how to cut these up and cut them away so that you can practice with your pearls, cut them up, and restring them. You could use like 8mm beads or 6mm beads, but do know that glass beads like check fire polish, the holes are going to be larger. So you may want to switch, instead of knotting with silk, you may want to switch up and use Ceylon instead. Okay. And Kim, thank you. It is, we really tried to lay it out very thoughtfully. So if you have not watched episode 1, go back and look at episode 1. Okay. And then Karen, exactly. I love a bead soup. Use all of your different pearls because it'll give you, it'll give you some different experiences.
Also semi-precious.
Sure.
If you don't actually have the budget for pearls right now, or you don't have any at home, but you've got other beads, the techniques will work no matter what beads you have. You just have to marry the correct thread with the hole size and with also the relationship of how big the knot is compared to the size of the bead. So you experiment. You can try it with adding more silk. You could try Ceylon or fine weight Ceylon, but semi-press, as Miranda would say,
likes to say, that's right.
Kate says,
Semi-fresh.
Will work. I would probably say start out with round beads.
Yeah.
Because that will mimic the feeling of getting the thumb on top of the knot or using your awl or tweezers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my
So
story.
here is my, if you have nothing, right, and you don't have a tool, you've tried the tool, you've tried the hands, it's not working for you. Let me show you this trick. Okay. I put a pearl on. I've got my knot. There's all kinds of space here, right? What I do is I put my index finger up against, I push this pearl kind of up a bit more. Okay. Like that. And it's just resting. Everything's resting. I put my finger in front of this pearl. I grab my strand, and at the same time, I pull this thread tight and I push this pearl away from me. We don't want it to catch on anything. So if it catches on that pearl, uncatch it.
Gosh, this makes me so nervous.
And see, Janice, it's fail-safe.
I know, but I
use this pearl as a pusher.
That's right. Now you would move it away and separate your threads.
And separate the threads, tighten them up. You know,
Wait,
you can move
it back. There you go.
And do it this way. Doesn't matter, right?
Gosh,
and then pull
I have
that
to
forward.
try that. I just have to try it.
So let me do it again.
I am just...
This is my, like when I teach pearl knotting live to people and they use the tool, and some people bond with the tool and some people bond with the hand method. And then someone inevitably is sobbing softly in the corner because they can't get either, right? So what we do is we come in, we even just do this, right? Okay, so here, do this. Don't even wrap it around your hand. Just tie a knot like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Just like that. All right? Now, finger down. Push the pearl away. Because see what's happening is, as you're pushing the pearl away, let me zoom tight on here. Okay?
Why don't you push the pearl up and then pull the knot tight?
Well, you want to pull and push all at the same time, okay? Because, I mean, I could keep pushing this up like this. I could hold it like that too. Sometimes, you know, it depends. You could pinch the thread or you could slide your finger along. It just depends on what people think, right? Or what works for people. Maureen is commenting that this reminds her of our France class last year. This is how I taught everybody how to pearl knot, and this was a fail-safe method for a lot of people. So what I do is, but before I tie this knot here, I put the pearl on, right? Put that pearl on right here, right? Tie the knot
right
between the two pearls. Now, if it's easier for you to pinch the thread like this, you could, but you tighten and push. It just works. Always works.
I'm kind of speechless.
I want you to try it, JP, sometime.
I'm going to.
Okay. So now we've got this. We've got this strand. It's looking pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. Let me, we're going to put the end tip on the other side. Okay. Let me put a couple on. Are there any other? So there's many ways, my friends, just like, you know, everybody has different ways of doing things. Pearl knotting, there is no one method, really, right? Some people really like using the tool. There's the the knotting tool. I am not a knotting tool kind of a gal because I feel like it makes the knot, it never quite puts the knot up against the bead, right? And so see how I also, as I go along, I just kind of pull my thread a little bit, right? I can also flip it this way. I do a lot of, but again, I've been purl knotting for like 30 years. So what I do is make it look easy. That's my job. See, I can also do it this way, get my thumb on, pull that thread without fear, and tighten it down. Split the thread, then tighten it down. So let's take a look at once we've knotted, you can also kind of give it a little tug like this to kind of stretch everything out and make sure everything is nice and straight like this. Now, let me show you how to put the end tip on the other side. Okay. Let me zoom in. Janice, I can see you're leaning super, super close to the, watching every move. I love.
I also, to relax the knots, I will roll the pearls that way, like on a towel or, you know, even on like my leg, you know, and that will help relax the knots. But don't, if your knots are tight, so many people want to pull on them, but they will relax as you wear them. You know, just roll them or just gently pull on them, but don't like.
But carefully. Yeah, you don't want to yank.
Yeah,
we're not.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just helping them settle.
Yeah.
Now this, Sandra had a question about pre-stretching. I don't pre-stretch. We talk about that in the show, our episode 1. When I'm knotting, this method of after I tie the knot and then splitting these threads out like this really helps me to stretch my silk for sure. When I'm using the thread, the silk on the needle, which is the single ply or the double ply, but it's one strand, I do pre-stretch. And we'll talk about that next month. Okay, we'll really delve into knotting with the single strand. Okay. So you'll just have to be patient for that. I'm sorry. I mean, we could have this be a marathon where we just do like those movie marathons, right? Where they show like a day of the Christmas story. We could just do 24 hours of purl knotting, right? Let me see if this is going to be long enough for a bracelet. It's not, but that's really okay. Let me get my end tip. Where is it? So here's my second end tip. Okay. And the way, like we mentioned before, no knot between the end tip and the first purl, or in this case, the last purl. Okay. Let me get a little tighter. Notice how we want to have this knot or this clamshell going in the opposite direction, right? Like Janice said, if the hook is touching the purl, then it's wrong. Okay, so we want to go this way, like this, and we're going to put our needle. Remember how when we started, we put our needle under the umbrella? This time we're putting our needle down from the top of the umbrella here. Okay. Like that. And this goes all the way down. And we're here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the end tip and the purl are touching nicely. I'm going to come in. I'm going to go, maybe this is about 4 inches or so, like this. and I'm going to cut my thread. Okay. Now I'm going to split these strands, okay? And we're going to tie a square knot into this cup, okay? And I'm going to go around once, twice, and through 3 times. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to make sure that I don't catch the back of this end tip. Okay. I'm going to tie it down into the cup. And before I tighten, see, this is kind of a mess right here. These are the pearls in the new arrivals, Mary. It's this one and this one. These are both the new arrival pearls that I'm using. And yes, we're going to show how to add thread, how to deal with thread when it breaks. It's going to be a whole thing on saving your piece. We're going to unknot thread. We're going to do all that. Before that knot is tight, I'm going to get a little bit of that GS, and then I'm going to finish and tighten that thread. Okay, so that's half of my square knot. Now I'm going to come in and I'll do the other side. 1, 2, 3 times, square knot, come in, get my glue down there so the glue is on the inside of that knot as well as the outside. Tighten it up. Before I do anything else, I'm going to make sure that I pull on this, right, to make sure that my knot is big enough. Okay, and that definitely looks big enough. I'm going to add one more drop now that the knot is completely seated. I've got this extra glue that I got to get rid of on the tip of my glue. I know your glue looks the same, so I'm not going to be too embarrassed by it, but let me slide that off. There we go. That's better. Okay. So really get in there, glue that knot, and now both of these knots have been glued. Now, I do not cut this thread away for 24 hours. Like I would come back tomorrow at this time and finish everything up. Okay, does that make sense? Because I really want these knots to settle, to sit and let the glue really bond with the thread. If you do that, you're not going to have any trouble with these knots coming undone or anything like that. Okay. So, and Sarah, you don't need to use tweezers for the last knot because we've split these threads and we're tying a square knot, a half hitch over a half hitch. We're not trying to tie an overhand knot and slide it down into the end tip. Okay, if that makes sense. You could, but it's a little more difficult to deal with. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to go ahead, since this is demo time, I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut this thread away and we're going to talk about closing this end tip. Okay. So let me do that. I'm going to come in and I'm going to really get right in there and clip that away. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we'll connect, I don't know, a clasp or something. What do I have here? Hey, Miranda, will you get me, what clasp should I use? Maybe a toggle or something? Yes, please. And then we'll see what Miranda brings us. If we need to, we can add a jump ring if we have to, but we want to make sure that this hook is going to fit around whatever clasp we choose. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what it is. Okay, so it is a chunky one. All right. No, it's fine because I've got an end tip. So see here, see the side view of this hammered toggle? If I bring this in and I come in and I close this end tip over this kind of large bail that's here, right? It's not going to give me enough free movement here. And this is going to be a weak point in my necklace. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, if I have to add a jump ring, what I'll do is I'll add the jump ring now to the clasp. So many good questions coming in, Janice. I know you're answering a lot of them, but I'll go over them. We'll go over them too. So see how I attach that there? It's a nice, gives it a little bit of extra room. This is an 18 gauge. I think this is the 4mm 18 gauge, I think. But see how much more clearance you get with that jump ring there? Like that. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to just get that little hook. See, I don't want to smash it. Kind of hard to see. But I want to bring that little tip of the hook inside the cup of the end tip. Sorry, I've got to get it in my field of vision too. And I like using these bent chain nose for that. There we go. So can you see? Can you see that there? Okay. So that's it. That's how you'd connect. If your clasp, like if you have a traditional pearl clasp, like the filigree clasp or things like that, that ring on the end of those are fine. They're nice and small, right? So it'll be good. So let me go back and let's see. So Janice, I know you answered. The cutters I used were the Xeron thread scissors. I use these a lot for cutting our threads. You could also use cutters, wire cutters, if you wanted. Sometimes Janice uses our Italian cutters here. And Mary, I did do a square knot on this end and an overhand on the other. I did an overhand on this end because the knot was the first thing I was tying. Okay. So instead of splitting them and doing a square knot, the most compact and easiest knot to do when I'm just doing on the end here is an overhand knot. And I'll do the passes, however many I need to pass through. And then I'll tighten it up. Then the end tip comes up and meets this knot, right? On this end, if I had to tie an overhand knot and walk it down into the cup of the end tip, it's very difficult to do so, right? You would have to get your tweezers in there. It would be hard to seat that knot inside that cup. So I cut the thread, I cut the needle away. I have two long ends of thread, and I just simply tie that square knot so I can maneuver it down right into the cup of the end tip. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. And let's see. Anything else? Janice, do you see anything else that we need to? And yeah, the 2-loop clamshells, they certainly work. You can see here's the 2-loop. And instead of a hook, you just close them up and you'd put a jump ring. You definitely need a jump ring with this. You need a jump ring to close it, to hold it together. I know a lot of people really prefer this end tip. And we do carry these. Okay. Margaret, I use the flat nose because these are the gripper. If I were trying to do the round nose, I'd just be gripping the end with these round nose, and it's not really a gripping tool for me. So that's that. Let me go down here. Let me see. I know it's information overload for sure. There we go. Let me show you now. Whoops, let me end this. I want to get some, I know we're almost at the end, and I feel like we're kind of giving this kind of a wink and prayer, but I do want to talk to you about bullion wire. And I need to find my piece of bullion wire here. Let me, yes, I know we need to. Yes, so French wire, let's see. And I'm going to do that, Kim. I'm going to save these guys for Friday because I've got a whole bunch of tricks with this. So tune in on Friday for these guys, okay? Because that's going to take a long show. But French wire, I love. I just can't find. Would you, Miranda? Do you either see it down there or can you grab some? Maybe it's in my wire box. I thought I had it sitting here, but I'm not sure where it went. So, see, as soon as I ask you, I have it. So I have it here. We don't really carry this color anymore because they stopped making it in copper. We have it in the silver and the gold, but it works exactly the same. It comes in different sizes, right, JP?
Oh, wait, I forget that I'm on. Yes.
Yes, here we go. Here's the gold. Here it is in the
yes,
heavy.
it does. It does. It comes in.
You're so busy watching what we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm blinking, and then I think I'm just moderating like usual. It comes in fine, medium, and thick. It's getting harder to find it in all the sizes. It's very rare to see it in gold fill or sterling. It's like we used to see it in antique silver and antique copper and bronze and like hematite, and now it's gold and silver, and that's kind of it. But it's very nice. The fine is really, really fine, and if you take a piece, Kate, and you pull on it, it's just like a little slinky. It just, it's like you just can't use it, So it's more for advanced students. I don't think you absolutely need it the first time you pearl knot. There are times when you want things to, be finished a certain way, or you may end up liking it and then just, use it all the time. It's really up to you. You can also use it with soft flex.
We do use it with soft flex. I'm just looking for my needles. Here they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to use this fine, okay? Now, the thing about bullion wire is that we need, you pass your thread back through the first hole of your bead. Okay, so the bullion wire isn't the first thing that you put on. You put a pearl or a bead on. I'm going to put on, just for fun, I'm going to put on this rondelle, okay, right here. And I go through, and here at Beadshop, we do carry the French wire in the silver and the gold. So I put on my first bead, Now I'm going to cut. I always cut my French wire a little long, right? I'm going to cut it about, and it also depends on what clasp you're using. So if I'm going to use this clasp, it has a fairly heavy bail on it, right? So you can kind of come in and kind of test it and see what size loop you might want or whatever. You need to be real careful because you don't want to, the French wire is very delicate, right? You kind of have to handle it with some kid gloves. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip that away. Okay. And if I'm doing two sides of my clasp with the French wire, per usual, and I'm using the clasp that has the same kind of bail, I'll cut both of my pieces of French wire at the same time so they're the same length, so the loops are the same size. So now
Can I just interject?
Sure.
I would put on, I know this works with one bead or one pearl.
Mm-hmm.
I do it with 3.
Okay.
So I put on 3 beads before I put on my bullion.
And so you go back through. Okay, then I'll let you coach me.
The reason I do this is because all of the repairs that I saw that came in that used bullion or used just thread going around the clasp and then knotting underneath one bead is that it was just so easy for that one knot to come out and for the whole thing to come apart.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you've got 3 knots, or it's actually 2 knots, then it's very hard for you to lose the one knot, then the next knot, and the next knot, and for you to lose, for your necklace to come apart.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the things, I would agree with that, JP, for sure. What you want to do is you want to be really careful when you're pulling this French wire down. Mm-hmm. If the little end has a snag and it snags on your thread, it's going to open up like a slinky. Okay, so be very careful to kind of push it down. It was catching on the thread right here. I could feel it. So I wanted to kind of push it down a little bit further, being really careful. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my clasp on. And now we very carefully, you can see these beads have such large holes. I want to come back through the first bead hole, slide it through, untwist all this business, make sure that this doesn't fall off.
You can put a tape flag over the ends.
Yeah, I could. And I think that's what I'm going to do because I need a little.
And I like to use the thread snips to cut the bullion.
Sure. Yeah.
They're very inexpensive. Like the traditional end tips, they're really the workhorse of like knotting is those thread snips.
Oh yeah, the old school thread snips, which I like. I like those very much too. I use them also in sewing. So here we go. So what I want to do is I'm going to really carefully pull my extra thread. See how my bullion wire is staying straight? And it's just going to come in. It's going to curve through the clasp and tighten down.
Doesn't that look great?
Yeah, and it does. And see, it's longer than you think it might be, right? You need more bullion than you think. Because you really want this to have a nice movement, a nice clean closure. If it's too tight, and you don't want to shove this bead up too and compact this down too much, right? So what I do here, now Janice, I don't know what kind of knot you tie.
I just lay it down. I lay the piece down
Mhm.
on the just like that. Then I make a loop over the strand that has the pearls on it.
Mhm.
Then I go under it. And then I just tighten it. And there you go.
Yeah.
I've got a knot.
So now I'll go through, and if you need to, these pearls these beads have kind of a large hole. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a double overhand here. I could have used regular pearls. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't.
Well, they may not fit with the silk.
Well, I'm also using size E this time.
Okay.
This is a smaller silk, but I didn't want to have to go back and change them out. So,
okay.
So see here, I've gone through this thread. Now I'm coming up. I've got that knot.
Mm-hmm.
Now this, what I do is sometimes what I also do, we'll come through here. We'll tie this knot. I'll come through and I'll come through twice. Once, twice. And this is very traditional, very high-end pearls will have this bullion wire on them. This is, you know, the big one, the big deal. So there's that. And now I'll go through this last one. And this is where now I can take the tape flag off of my thread. I'll pull everything up.
And I might put a tiny little bit of GS hypo on the silk that goes into that last pearl.
Mm-hmm.
If you felt like you needed to.
Yeah. And what this is, I do this last one. I do it in an overhand and tighten it down just like a regular pearl knot. I split the threads. I tighten it down. I add my GS here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will continue knotting.
We do it very similar. I just drop the tails before the third pearl.
Oh, you do? Okay, I see.
But
Sure.
you could do it this way too.
And we could, yeah, you could drop the threads earlier, for sure. For sure. You could drop the threads right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it's very rare that this will come undone now.
Yeah.
It's very rare.
So let me put these Baroque pearls on real quick. This is the other strand that we have right now. Look at I don't know if you can see, look at that luster.
Very pretty.
Oh gosh. These were so beautiful. I chatted with our vendor while he was in Tucson, and we were fortunate. He had just gotten a shipment, and I think the shipment was delayed until the last day of the show. So he gave us an excellent price on these because he had to move them out. So we were really lucky. I'm just going to clip this away. I wouldn't if this were real jewelry making time, right? But since this is demo time, and I'll come in and I'll knot just a few of these because I want to get to the bullion wire on the other side. So we're going long, but it's a master class, so that's what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know if we've covered all of our agenda, but we'll get to it all, I promise you. Okay. So I'm going to just use these pearls at the end on the other side, and we'll check this pearl hole size. Let me just do a couple more. Gosh, these are so, look at how nice these look just strung. I want to do this with a layering necklace with just these pearls. And look at this light blue. This is size E silk. Now, if you get the silk in white, if you just get one spool of silk, you get white and you can dye it. This silk thread dyes beautifully, beautifully. And I think on our last show, I think I put in there that I want to show you. I'll show you how to add some color to white threads. Silk holds color perfectly. So if you're like, you know what, I want this color or this color or this color, there's a lot of different ways that we can add color to these threads. Okay, let me just do a couple more. So I'm going to come in and I've got one space, a second space, and then here's my space to add the closure. And I'm going to take this one off and from this one, and I'm going to add it to this strand. Okay, so let me open this up. Pearl knotting really is a fine art. You know, it is a jewelry technique that I think certainly requires some practice, but it's really a great one to have in your repertoire. So there's that clasp. Okay. So let me zoom in. I've got my other piece of bullion wire here.
Yep.
Okay. So very carefully, I want to make sure that all of my thread is even, untwisted. Pull it up, untwist. See how it's kind of twisty there by the needle from all of that knotting. So let's tame it. Let's go through. Like that. Really carefully, when you get to the needle, you need to just get really careful. Hey, Miranda, will you hand me the caliper? Now that these beads are free of the strands, I can really measure them. But Maureen, these aren't the white potato pearls. These are the brand new ones. They're in the Just In. They're the Baroque pearls, 6 millimeter. And you can see this is like 6.6, a little under 5, a little over 6. They're kind of teardrop shaped there. So these are the brand new ones. And I won't see these again. This is it. He got these in for a Tucson special. They came in late. He wanted to unload them. So we got a great deal that I was able to pass on to you. Let's see, I'm going to slide this down really carefully. We're going to leave a little bit of space because I'm going to put knots in there. Okay? So now we're going to go through the clasp, back through that first pearl, making sure that your needle hasn't caught on the thread inside of the hole, and we're going to pull it. And see, these go through just fine. You could use a reamer, a bead reamer, if you need to ream out these last two. Janice has done that. We've done that for you before. But be very careful. If you're reaming pearls, you need to make sure that you're reaming them wet underwater so that none of the nacre of the pearl is airborne. Okay? Because that's really not good for you to breathe in. So we're going to do that same knot like we did over here. Okay? I'm going to come around. I'm going to tie my knot. I'm going to go through that loop. It's a little harder to do because your pearls are right next to each other. But see how I've gotten that knot in between those two pearls, and I'm going to go through one more time. I want that knot to be nice and not too bulky, but get in there, pull it down, tighten it up. Now, maybe split those threads. This knot might be a little bulkier than I want it, but it's a little out of my field of vision, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Now I'm going to go through, see, I've got a little bit of space there. So I'm going to go through this pearl. Now this is where, Janice, you dropped the thread, or you dropped your thread down here. I've only done 2 pearls.
This is your last knot that you're doing, right?
Yeah, and so I should have had 3. I only added 2 pearls on here.
Oops,
okay.
Sorry.
So here's this. And this needle that I'm using, this is the fine. Flexible eye and fine is what I'm using. Okay. So now here, see, I want to pull on both of these because I don't want them to get snarled. This one. There we go. Kind of push that pearl up so I've made some room to tie my knot. And what I'll do here is, instead of tying that sideways knot, I'll cut my thread and tie a square knot here. Is that what you do, Janice?
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. We concur. So I'll cut this, split the threads, square knot and down, or half hitch and down to make the full square knot. Now I'll turn everything over, come around that interior thread, square knot. Now before I tighten that square knot completely, I'll add my glue, square knot down on top of that, or half hitch rather, down on top of that, and then complete my full square knot over it. And again, I let this glue rest 24 hours, okay, until it's set. One last drop of glue. And there, my friends, is the bullion wire at the end. And the bullion wire matches the loop size because I cut them both at the same time. Okay. Yeah, the white pearls with the colored thread, that's what I'm going to do on Friday. That is my kryptonite for sure. Okay. I love it so much. The French wire that I used is the fine for this size, but you can use fine with the size E. You may want to use the medium with the F. It just depends. I would get a couple of sizes so you've got everything going, right? And I actually wouldn't hide the threads down here. I would just clip them because you could pull them through and then clip, but I wouldn't. I would just clip them right there. Okay. I hope that helps. Let me see. Let me see what we haven't covered yet and what we might have to push down. Let's see. Okay, so knotting between different bead shapes and sizes and adapting techniques for larger or irregularly shaped beads and how to handle tiny hole pearls and gemstones. Let me just show you real quick, and we'll touch on this a little bit more as well. But I have some. This is a necklace that I make myself a necklace every year around my birthday, and usually it's something that's pearl knotted. So I want to show you this. This is a piece I made, and this has a lot of my personal treasures in it. Okay. It has a bronze piece from Cynthia, one of her big bronze skulls. It's got a long check glass bead. It's got some metal beads that I made. It has some vintage Venetian in it, and it has some different sizes of pearls there. So one of the things that I do when I want to incorporate a bead that has, if I'm knotting it, and I want to incorporate a bead that has a big hole, instead of tying a knot, I'll use like a little spacer bead in between instead. Can you see how that looks right there? Because if I had a knot, this thread is thinner, right? I think I used an E for this because these holes are smaller. I put just a small little spacer in between there instead. And in between the pearl and these big beads that have the big hole here, I didn't do anything. I just let the bead butt up against it. Same thing for this one, this big shadow bead. And this is stretched out actually quite a bit. You can see the stretching there. This probably needs some restringing eventually. But you can see this is stretched quite a bit right here. This is where it's going to break right here because there's so much space there. So using a little spacer bead is a nice way to do it. You can also tie a knot that's fatter. Is that what you do, Janice?
Oh, I was just reading what Carolyn was asking me. Are you asking would I do a larger knot instead of a spacer bead? Yeah, I would. But I also think the spacer bead, is a great idea. I don't know that I would have done your necklace on silk. You did it on silk?
I did. Yeah, and I think Ceylon might be a bit, I don't know. I had silk. That's what I liked. But a lot of these things are super heavy. Yeah. And that's why, like this bead of Cynthia's is super heavy. It's bronze. So things are stretching out a bit, but I wasn't stressed about it because I'm not selling it. I'm making it for myself. But restringing this, maybe doing it on fine Ceylon might have been a better choice. I don't know.
I was just going to say that's what I would have put on is when you've got something so long and you have beads like those trade beads and that beautiful long faceted bead, they can like cut up against.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Let me show you here. So these are small. Okay. So I'm going to come in and just do these guys. And now let's put a glass bead on that has a bigger hole. Okay. Let me knot these up. And let me knot these. Okay. So this is just a single knot. Okay. Like I've been doing. Now watch what happens when I put one of these check rondelles on here. See how, well, actually, that fits okay. Let me see if I can get something. So look what happens. Look, it works perfectly. Awesome. Good job, me. Let me knot that on. I need something with a larger hole. I thought for sure this was going to fit the bill. Let me see. Aha. Aha. Let's see. Can you hear my rustling? Rustle, rustle.
No.
Okay.
Not really.
Oh, here. I've got a drawer full of beads right here. Hang on. This is not something that we carry, but it's something that I have in my little bead drawer sitting right here. Let me see. That's a small hole. Hang on. Be patient with me. Sorry, everybody. Let's see. No. Here we go. Here we go. Here's a big melon bead. And can you see it's like a highway through here. right? It's huge. So if I put this on, this is a nice bead. I have no idea where I got it. Slide this on and see how it jumps over that knot. Okay. So let me put another bead on. I'll put a pearl. And I need to make a hole that's fat enough so that this bead doesn't jump over the knot. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through once, twice, 3 times. That's probably going to give me a knot that's fat enough. But I would definitely do a tester. So you could, because if I'm doing this coming along and I've done a necklace and I've been finishing it up and maybe I'm going to put this bead on the end, you know, it might not work. Now, another great technique for that is, Lorna, 100%. If you have a bead cap that would fit on this that has a smaller hole, cap it. And that bead cap will prevent this loop or this knot from pulling through, right? That's a great idea. So I'll come in, I'll do my tweezer method with this one. Come in, really walk this knot down as much as I can, tighten it, compact it down, really get it down. Now I'm going to push this knot down and tighten and see what a big knot I get, right? You could also use a seed bead. I'll put a seed bead on too, but let me compact this down and see what the knot looks like. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. This is a great bead. I have no idea where I got it. So see, look at how nice. See, this still wants to come over because remember how I talked about how the silk wants to compact down? You tighten that up. See, that still covers it. So this is, I would know that I'd put on, you know, this will be my tester. I'd put another one of these. You know, the silk wouldn't necessarily shred, or the bead cap wouldn't necessarily shred the silk, especially if it's tight. Once your silk starts to, like on my piece that's heavy, like I showed you earlier, once the silk starts to stretch in between your beads like this, that's where it's going to start to wear away, right? Like this metal bead will start to wear. So here we go. And honestly, no one will notice, especially if you have a seed bead that's kind of the same color, no one will notice the seed bead versus the knot, right? No one will notice. Tighten that down, compact it down. It's almost like a barrel knot, right? With the silk thread. And then let's put this on. There we go. Look at that. That looks nice. Then I'll come in. How many times did I do that? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that hole didn't look giant, but holes can be deceptively large, and the silk can really compact down. Then I want to tighten that up. There we go. So there are those two there. Okay, and then we would just continue on our merry way. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. So could I put the French wire on the inside, Deborah? The hole is not that large, right? But you could, let's say that this bead hole was like super big, and it was going to be kind of rattling around on the thread. I could put size 15 seed beads and see if I could slide that bead down, and that would protect the thread, so there's a lot of ways to experiment. I really suggest, as you're working, when you're planning out your necklace, to do some experimentation, not just jump in and start to string right away, because you need to do a little bit of problem solving before you actually start putting that piece together. But see, that looks really nice, I think. Right? So let me show you from last time. We talked about the KO, and we talked about the different how much KO you could use, or how many strands of KO. This is from our show last time, part 1, this piece with the KO and the multiple strands like this. So go back and watch episode 1, where we talk about using KO for tiny beads. I think it really works well. Janice really turned me onto it, and the knots really look beautiful. You can see that there. So for tinier beads or smaller beads like this, using that KO, I think, is a great way to go. You could also carry along a strand of KO if you needed this strand to be maybe just a little bit thicker. You could mix. There's no reason why you couldn't mix two strands of the KO and 2 strands of the silk. Why not? Right? It would add a little bit of color in there too. So I'm not against doing that either. What do you think, JP?
Well, I have to say, Kate, when it comes to knots, you are absolutely fearless. I mean, my jaw, like, oh no, now she's doing 5 knots, 5 into one, multiple 5. I'm just dumbfounded, but absolutely. Let's everyone be fearless like Kate is and try it. And
well, it's just a practice piece, JP, I mean, just a practice piece. What's going to go wrong? You cut it up, and then you get it right, and then you make your piece, right? Here's that large hole that I did, and I'll show this to you on Friday as well, folks. And if you get your newsletter, not yesterday's newsletter, but your newsletter that dropped on Monday that had the large hole pearls in it, I have a little recipe on how to knot the large hole pearls. And it's just a little recipe up there to go with the large hole pearls that we launched. You can open the newsletter and take a screenshot of it or print it out. I'll put it into a little format and put it on the pearl knotting page. And tomorrow's newsletter, get on the newsletter list, my friends. It'll be a whole newsy newsletter with tons of links, tons of things. We'll go over kind of what we did today. So you've got, it won't be full episode notes, but I'll write some notes up for this. Okay. So it'll all be in one place. I'm liking this necklace that you gave me so many years ago, JP. I love it so much.
Oh, good.
So I guess that's it. I need lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. It's like the backbone of jewelry is knotting, is getting a knot. It's just getting a knot up against a bead. That's all this is. That's all it is.
That's it. And the way that you do it, however you do it, I mean, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. Yeah. We're just sharing our combined, like, almost 100 years of experience between the two of us, JP.
Yeah.
So, and I did promise, let me just add, and I don't want to be an untruther. I told everybody that I would show you where everything was on the website. So let me just close a few windows so I don't share information that is sensitive. And that would be like my home shopping history.
How do you spell orange?
Right. So hang on. Let me add Beadshop onto this. And let me go to the home page and let me share my screen. Okay. So where you can find it, and I know there's quite a few people I know that are new, that are watching us today, that are fairly new to Beadshop, which is a big thank you to all of you for being here and sticking with us. Let me navigate a few places so you can see this. Here we are on the home page. A couple of places where you can find, I'm going to click on new arrivals. You can see where those pearls were. Oh, the almost round pearls have gone. Thank you, friends, for doing it. But we've got some of those white Baroque pearls that are still available. We have a couple of the large, we only have one of the large hole pearl left. Let me go over here to the learning section. Go down right here. First, we'll go to master classes. All of the master classes that we do the first Wednesday of the month, we've done it. I've done it on advanced stringing. We did ladder bracelets. We did wire work. And now we're on pearl and bead knotting. If you come here and you scroll down, you'll see a little bit of copy about it. Then you'll see what the February 5th episode was about. You can click there to watch the episode. You'll find all the knotting supplies there. Coming up next, that was today on the 5th, so I'll link the broadcast here. And then it'll tell you our April, May, and June classes, what is on the agenda. Okay? You'll also find, let's go here under learning again. Let's go to archive projects, and I'll also link the this handout and everything here as well. If you go to our archive projects, these are old projects that we used to teach in person in our brick and mortar store. And we've been teaching knotting since Beadshop was opened in 1982. There's the tin cup necklace. We talked a little bit about that last time, the float necklace with the single strand, which we'll touch on more next time. But if you keep scrolling down, you'll see gem knotting that's specific to gemstones. We keep going down, and here is our classic pearl knotting. So if you go here, you scroll down, you download that PDF. It's Janice's, her classic knotting handout that we gave out when we taught the class. Okay. So it's all there. Still the content, see how Janice talks about all the threads there. She talks about how much thread do you need right there. She talks about starting just like we did today. And you can see how Janice is tying that knot with her hands. Okay. So if you haven't gone to download this handout, my friends, run, don't walk. It's a really great one to have in your own personal learning. Okay. So that's that.
Okay. Go have some lunch.
I am. So thank you, my friends, for, oh my goodness, you really kind comments. Thank you all. And just to finish and let you know, you can find us all on our socials. Hit us up on Facebook at the Bead Table, on our Instagram page, our Pinterest. Hit that like, subscribe, and notification button, my friends, on YouTube. We are growing by leaps and bounds over there, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber if you find our content at all helpful. Share it out to your other beady friends. And if you make anything with our projects or our products, hit us up at beadshop.com all over the web. Give us a tag so we can repost it on our socials. And any questions, we are only on the other side of your computer. info@beadshop.com. Send us an email. We try and answer your questions by the end of the business day if it's during the week, and first thing on Monday morning if you email us on the weekend. So that's it, JP. I am going to go have some luncheon.
Okay.
That's that. I'll see you on Friday for more things with those end tips. We'll finish up with those pearl caps.
I can't wait. I want to see that.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, JP. Thanks so much. Thanks so much to you.
Bye,
And I
all.
will see you folks on Friday for free tip.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.